shower 3 times a week, we could actually take over this industry.
We could take over the industry.
And
3 times, huh?
yeah.
I don't know. It's yeah. Sometimes it's harder than you think, Tim.
But who knows? Save everything,
Who
I say,
knows?
you know.
Who knows?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, welcome everybody to the Home Service Shift Show. Got my co-host here, Mr. Landon Brewer, and our sidekick, Mr. Tim Welch. We're going to talk about the problem with just learning how to upsell. Why is that the only way we're being taught in the best practices groups? The gurus, they all only teach one way to sell. That's upsell. Always sell in a box. You got to have a well-rounded business if you want margins and you want growth. And I think this is more evident now in this economy than ever before. And this is the practice that we use at Billy Go. This is the stuff that I coach. And this is how we create high-margin businesses in low-margin atmosphere, right? You know, like now. Like everybody's having a discount just to get work. Well, we don't. And we're going to talk about how and why today. How you been, sir?
Oh, I've been great, brother. Been great. I didn't realize that we'd resorted to calling Tim the sidekick, but I kind of like it.
Well, I couldn't come up with an official. I mean, that's I was thinking about Tim. What's the best thing I can come up with?
I'm a sidekick.
Is that what you put on your business card?
Yeah,
You hand out your
sidekick.
I'm official sidekick. My superpower is kicking it.
You know, I was had a conversation with somebody the other day, and the question was, how do I, what do you do when your techs want to, do side work and have some side jobs? So, and I said, anything that's here's a revelation I had during that call. Anything that starts with the word side, whatever it's precluded by it is automatically a negative connotation. Like, is your wife ever happy about the side chick? Probably not, right? Is the boss ever happy about side jobs and side work? Probably not. So is Tim happy about the nomenclature of side name or sidekick? Probably not, but I'm here for it.
Sideswiped in traffic.
Sideswiped.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing good that follows the word side.
No, unless it's the
Especially not the other side.
The baked beans, maybe.
Oh, on the side?
On the side.
But even the baked beans take second fiddle to the main course, right? It's just a negative connotation. Anything with side.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. We're going to get off of this sideshow here and get going on the real show. All right. Today, we're going to talk about, like I said earlier, always upselling. That's all we get taught. It's a one-dimensional way. And I think we've added a little, spice to it by, call by calls, things like that. But at the end of the day, it's to do one thing. What? It's to upsell.
Well, what I find fascinating is, you've been in this industry for, at least 40 years longer than me. But, the 25 years that I've been in the space, nothing, the industry has evolved quite a bit, right? The technology has evolved. The pricing has evolved. Who controls market share has evolved. Private equity's gotten into it. The big box, the industry has shifted quite a bit. Service shift, right?
Right.
But what hasn't shifted is the best practice groups, the people, like, very minimal shift has been the sales process. The same sales process that was being taught 25 years ago is still being taught today. Now, it's not to mean that it has to take a major shift, but nothing has changed. The only one small divot that I ever saw was, when I first got into it, it was all about tech sales. And then at one point it was, hey, we're going to have the techs turn over to a salesperson because, the idea was that the vast majority of technicians weren't capable of selling stuff, right? Which, you can either buy into or not buy into. But, then you just kind of added expense of the salesperson to the endeavor, and it just didn't really do much, right? So it hasn't shifted. It hasn't evolved much in 25 years.
It has not. And that's why I want to talk about today to show how we do it differently and why it makes a big difference. I see hundreds of businesses and I'm seeing, gross profits of 35% on the average, 35 to 42. That's just terrible. I'm sorry. If that's what the best practices groups feel like it needs to be, then fine. That's what they're coaching. Go for it. If that's the life you want to live in, because when you're only teaching upsells, that's as good as you're going to get in your margin. Your gross profit is not going to improve because that's a one-dimensional way to look at things. So there's other ways of selling. So not only do you have the upsell, you have the downsell. And basically the downsell is, okay, this isn't going well on the upsell. How do I save this customer and at least get a repair at this point and come back at this later? Because I know this is something that they're going to need. They may need it right now, but they're not ready to do it right now. And so you have to save the downsell. And that's how you save the customer. And so when we got away from text selling and bringing in a salesperson that you flip it to, that salesperson doesn't get paid to downsell. He gets paid to upsell. And therefore, we lose a lot of business. And that's one of the nice things about private equity is they give us a lot of jobs that they just throw away because they have a one-dimensional idea of how to sell. That's the upsell. And so therefore, when they leave the house and that customer, didn't relent to their relentless selling processes, just beating them over the head, we have an opportunity, a lot more opportunity as independent contractors because of this philosophy, right? So you got to know when to downsell. And then also, if you're not able to downsell, you leave proposals and stuff, there's the resale, if you will, or the rehash, right? And this is where you're working very hard to go sell a job that you didn't sell the first time. And this is a very lucrative part of a business because the majority of companies do not follow up. And if you have a very well-established follow-up protocol, you should be able to sell more jobs that you didn't sell the first time. And then you have the no sale, right? Which is the one you never want. And, you try to avoid it all costs. But when you're only upselling, you're only leading yourself to a no sale half the time. And that's the problem with the industry and why we need to evolve. So that leaves the most important sale that I haven't spoken about yet, which is really what this show is about. In fact, I haven't even told you what the most important sale is, in my opinion. So before I get into that, my cliffhanger here, let's talk about the industry for a second. The industry, the private equity, has only gone in and bought HVAC companies. Now, some of these HVAC companies may have electrical and plumbing or whatnot, but they're literally looking for HVAC companies. And therefore, you should, as an independent, you need to think about this for a second. You either build a really strong HVAC company that you can sell to them, which I don't recommend at all right now in this environment. I mean, the margins are insanely low. The gross profit's insanely low. This is a terrible time to sell your business if you're selling. It's a great time to buy one, but a terrible time to sell one, in my opinion. Because it just literally, if you would have sold your business 2 years ago, you got 3 or 4 times more for it than you get today, right? Because you had higher margins and you had higher multiples.
My opinion on that's slightly different. It's kind of like real estate, right? There's never a good or bad time to be buying or selling. The time is always to be ready to buy or sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when same with real estate. When interest rates were low, you had a lot more people buying and selling, and a lot more activity, and a lot more demand and less supply, which driving prices up. It's the same thing here now. We've got I think most of the high quality assets have been purchased. I would say 80% of the high quality assets in the residential space have already been purchased by private equity. It's the remaining 20% or those that come into, fill the spots behind them, that they'll still get an absolute premium, more than you've ever gotten in the history, way more than you got when you sold Berkey's, for example. But, multiples have compressed. But at this point, if you've got a high quality asset, you're going to be in demand more than anything right now because there's none left.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it. And so become a high quality one, right? That's what I was said
Yeah.
early on. To
Yeah.
position yourself to be that, right?
Yep.
Because the margins are low, right? Or lower, and the multiples are lower, right? So you're going to have to perform even better. And then
Yeah.
if you're
If you're playing the same game everybody else is, you know,
yeah,
good luck.
so if you're in a yeah, that's exactly right. So if you want to improve margins, you have to go into this. You got to have this one sale available. Now, not everybody does this, but you have to have the cross sale. To me, is the number one thing that you can do, and I'll explain to you why. We at Billy Go, obviously, I always talk about we are a membership company because we are gathering members. We want as many customers as possible paying us a annual fee, and then using that opportunity to do more business with them. Okay, and so if I was to not focus on cross selling, if our business did not focus on cross selling, I would be spending way more money in marketing trying to build both sides, right? So I only have a certain amount of money that I can spend in a business. Okay. And so we use cross selling to get to that customer more than once a year. And therefore our philosophy is we go all in on plumbing. We're a plumbing company, we're a membership company, then we're a plumbing company, and then we're an HVAC company. Okay. So the goal is gather memberships through plumbing and cross sell into HVAC. Why do I do it like this? Let me break it down for you. So first and foremost, my marketing budget for HVAC is only 35% of our budget. Okay, we only use 35% of our budget for HVAC, and I'm going to get into why I'm a plumbing business first and HVAC second.
That's interesting. People, I'm sure this is you saying that your marketing budget is only 35%, or for HVAC is only 35% of your marketing budget is probably going to drive people crazy wondering how you're pulling that off, because that's the complete opposite of how most people go to market with it.
That's exactly right. And it's so expensive, and therefore that's why I'm seeing these incredibly low gross profit margins. It's because we're spending all of our money trying to keep up with the Joneses, the PE firms, the big box stores, HVAC boxes, right? It's all about that. And so you're fighting an uphill battle because this industry has changed more and more and more. And
Yeah.
if you go into Google right now in Dallas Fort Worth, who's spending all the money in HVAC? In my area, it's Home Depot. Home Depot is spending the most. You can see it. They're literally spending the most money right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So at some point, you can't compete with that, right? You have to have other ways of doing this. You have to have a membership base, and you have to have another vertical to help bring it in. No one's going, hey, I'm buying plumbing companies. You don't hear that talk at all. It happens, but you're not hearing that talk. And I don't understand it because, in my opinion, there's higher margins. Here's what I don't. Let me just say, here's what I like about plumbing. Here's what I don't like about HV. But here's why I love them together. Because I absolutely love them together. So, plumbing. I don't need a big warehouse for plumbing, right? So real estate costs aren't expensive, okay? Because as I build a larger and larger HVAC company, you need more and more space. And space, as we all know, gets more and more expensive. All right. So you don't need a big warehouse to store boxes. All right. Number two, plumbing isn't weather dependent. HVAC is, even more so than it ever has been before. Because over the last 10 years, everybody's going all in and selling boxes and upselling at all times. Now there's fewer boxes to sell because everybody went all in that direction. And now we're seeing a harder sales process to get that box. And if you're getting it, they're discounting like crazy. It's crazy the discounting that's going on around here. Well, in plumbing, I don't have that problem. I can market for plumbing because I'm not competing against the big boxes. I'm really not competing against PE as much because they haven't figured this out. It's all about HVAC, right? And so I go and I market my plumbing business and I build my HVAC business by cross-selling. And that's how we do it. And by doing it like this, we've been able to build high margin business and massive growth. And so Of the $17 million that we did last year, $4 million was new boxes. That's it. Just $4 million.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
And so, and now I have high margin jobs, right? I have high margin. Everything we do is a higher margin. Think about this again. Let's go back to the plumbing versus HVAC comparison. You need at least 9 people touching an HVAC job 30 times. Each install requires up to 9 people. On the average, 5 to 7, but it can be as high as 9. 30 touches just to install an air conditioner. How many touches and people does it take to install a water heater? Or how many touches or people does it take in the office, in the warehouse, in the field, all over your business to replace the electrical components on an air conditioner or whatever it takes to fix it, add Freon, all these things? It takes a lot less people, right?
Yep.
And so in this day and age of AI and all these things are coming, you're going to have to start building businesses that are very small but do large revenue. And that's what I've been preaching ever since I came back on the scene 7 years ago, that you have to build a simple, efficient business. All this talk for the last 7 years is for what's happening right now today. And still people aren't doing it. Would you say that private equity is trying to figure this out now? Because the spreadsheets that they're using aren't working in a bad economy. They only know it being I mean, it's a spreadsheet world, right? That's all they understand, spreadsheets. But they don't understand the they don't understand the ebbs and flow of what it takes to run these businesses, the intuition of these businesses, and the things you got to do different in these businesses, because we're the most gray business you can become. It's not black and white at all. Spreadsheets are black and white. You have to change on the daily to make the maximum amount, to make everything work together in the most efficient way. You can't do it by spreadsheet. And unfortunately, that's what they're running these businesses on.
It is so funny that you say that. So, I'm going back and forth with, I'm friends with most of the CEOs of all the private equity backed businesses, and we all talk, and most of them come from like our world, and they don't come from private equity. And, you know, I was looking at a conversation between one and his partner, and it was the guy's title was VP of Commercialization and Analytics, and he had showed me the spreadsheet that he had put together to figure out how to tweak something about a budget thing, and it had all these algorithms in it, and it had taken several days, and he had worked with all these people and put it together. I'm like, why are you focused on that? Like, how about you figure out how to make some money? You just start building some cash flow instead of that, right? It's
Right.
like, you're not a publicly traded company, so what's the point? But that's so true that these guys they aren't focused on buying plumbing companies and going out and finding top tier electrical businesses and figuring out who's got the lowest acquisition cost per customer and highest margin. They're not focused on any of that stuff because they don't understand the business.
They don't.
The spreadsheet people don't get it. And if I were to start a new fund today, I would do exactly what you're preaching right now. I would go and find the highest quality assets in plumbing and electrical and bolt on air conditioning, because it's way easier to do that. And these guys are doing the opposite. They're buying high quality assets. The higher quality assets you can buy in any space, the better, generally speaking. But if they're going out and buying up all the air conditioning businesses and trying to bolt on plumbing, it just doesn't
The
work
opposite.
well that way.
Yeah, it doesn't work well
Yeah,
that way.
I would do exactly the opposite of what they're doing.
It's more expensive to do AC first, right?
Yeah.
You have to compete against everyone in marketing. You have to buy a bigger building to manage, all the inventory that's in the place. The other thing is, there's only a handful of manufacturers. So who's in control of your business when you're HVAC only? The manufacturers, right? They set the pricing. They are the ones that hold whether or not you can make money or not. And I'm telling you, they put the higher pricing on the guys that have the least chance of surviving, and they make the deals with the big guys, right? That's business. But at the same time, it makes it harder and harder and harder. And so if I was an HVAC company only right now, I'd probably be a little scared. I'd be real scared. if I was HVAC only, because the competition coming for your business is off the charts. It's coming from every angle you can imagine, and with lots more money than you have. And
Yeah.
you have to have a better vertical, a more stable vertical with HVAC to make a lot of money. It's just way it is. Yeah, we made lots of money in HVAC. You and I made lots of money in HVAC over the years, right? But those days it's different now. That's back when we were competing against a guy, Bubba across town, right?
Yeah.
That's what we were competing. We're not doing that anymore. We're competing with New York, with Wall Street.
Which, why do you think that? So I've got my theory, but why do you think it is that private equity went so heavily focused on HVAC instead of the other home services? I mean, they're definitely dabbling in other home services now,
Yeah,
but
they're
why
done.
is so heavy in HVAC?
I think because as an industry, we were in the repair culture. And so there was tons of opportunity for boxes. The alignment with just a handful of manufacturers and distributors also fits the same mindset as a private equity firm, right? Think about it. In plumbing, you can buy anything you want. You can go to Home Depot, you can go to a supplier, you can go to Ace Hardware, you can get whatever you need, right? Anywhere. No one dominating you, no one is controlling your pricing. You just go find the best pricing. It's available everywhere. And HVAC, you only have a dozen choices. And they're all playing the same game. The game is, I'll give you a better price today, but I'm going to be higher than you're paying now in a year. Right? That's that game that's always being played. And then you're having to retool and do all these other things. And your commodity is being controlled by someone other than you.
Well, here's my theory, and it's going to be way less sophisticated than that because it's just my observation over years in the industry. I think that private equity buys things that they can scale, and the way they scale is through acquisition. And I believe that it's the same reason that you see a lot more HVAC guys over the years in all the best practices groups, a lot more HVAC guys, making more money. I think there's just a level of sophistication difference. I think you have more sophisticated operators in the HVAC space, or at least had more sophisticated operators in that space,
Oh, I agree
and they've
wholeheartedly.
got it easier. And then you got plumbing and electrical, which hadn't really had the resources and focus that HVAC had for HVAC probably had a 15-year head start on the others.
Well, it goes back again. The pros, I'm giving you the cons, but the pros of having just a couple of distributors here, they can focus on these companies and help make them better, right? Whereas in plumbing, it's extremely fragmented, and so there's no continuity. There's no, that bond of doing everything the same. But the world has changed. That's the problem now. It's changed. The people that you're competing against, they're all over the place. We've got the big box, we've got the PE, we got all these, and they're going to figure it out at some time. Right now, they don't have a clue on how to manage this downtime. Right? They're trying to figure it out. They got their spreadsheets out. They're building new ones. They're making them bigger. They're spreading them out further. When at the end of the day, I'm just going and selling shit.
Yeah.
And I'm making money, right? And I don't need a spreadsheet. I haven't looked at a spreadsheet. I don't look at spreadsheets. I don't need to. I have software. I use software instead. I use common sense. I use business sense. I use all the things that I touch and feel, and my people can do the same, right? I give them the freedom to make decisions and to figure things out. You can't do that in an environment. The amount of technicians that we're seeing, plumbing, HVAC, all these technicians that are leaving these companies, either through layoffs, because the layoffs are happening big time here in Dallas. There have been 2 or 3 layoffs, waves of layoffs for each of these big companies here in Dallas-Fort Worth. I don't know how much they're shrinking, 30, 40, 50, 60%, the size that they used to be. And they're laying off folks. And then these people that are becoming available on the market are realizing, I missed actually a business that is, I'm going to call it family owned or whatever, but it's intuitive. It's not a spreadsheet run business. It's not where you have to have a magnetic.
Where everybody's not a number or digit on a piece of paper.
I'm an actual individual again. That's a good point. and not a number, and I don't have to have this badge thing to get into certain areas, and I'm not allowed to unless it's, all this, all the stuff that happens when you try to corporatize a blue collar industry. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to corporatize a blue collar industry. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, so I may have shared this with you before. I feel like we live in a gray area, and I want to coin the term, gray collar, because what I feel like we've spent most of our lives, both of us, doing is, taking blue collar folks and blue collar businesses and adding a white collar element to it to make it a little more sophisticated. And now that private equity is entered, we've taken the white collar folks and we try to make them a little bit more blue collar. And so we want to, there's like this perfect space in the middle that I call gray collar,
Yeah.
where we take the best of both worlds, a little sophistication, maybe a little spreadsheet and software, but still the boots on the ground and motivation and sales that drive these businesses.
That's
I
right.
think that's where the magic lies. And finding that sweet spot to keep everybody happy on both sides and the business making a lot of money. That's really like, that's where it is. But few people can find that sweet spot.
Exactly. So the sweet spot, let me go back in time. So when I got my first business in 1996, okay, I'm dating myself a little bit, 30 years next year. Can you believe that?
Wow.
If I wanted to take my business from blue collar to white collar, all I had to do was give my techs or my plumbers or my AC guys, we can call them techs yet, was a belt. Once I gave them a
Belt and
belt,
booties.
yep, belt and
and
booties,
booties.
we went from blue collar to white collar, and that's all it took. I mean, literally, it was that easy.
This is just like, hey, you want to grow your business? Go from get up to a half page yellow page ad.
Yeah, yeah. And if you guys would just shower 3 times a week, we could actually take over this industry.
We
We can take over the industry.
That's what it was. And
3 times, huh?
yeah.
I don't know. It's yeah. Sometimes it's harder than you think, Tim.
Well, it's like, well, before I thought, before belts, I mean, it's like for years, no one ever did it. So I'm like,
crazy.
why don't we just add a belt and see what
belt,
happens?
Just find a belt sell at Kohl's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's get some jeans on them that haven't been worn for the last 8 years.
They're not standing up on their own there.
Standing up on their own.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't take the bath.
Yeah. I remember it was, is something that was really, a big deal in the office was making them go outside and smoke.
Yeah.
You would lose
can't
people
smoke
over
inside.
that. I mean, you literally would lose employees over that.
That's crazy.
That's where it's come from, to where we are today.
Yeah, I'm happy about some of the evolutions. Definitely happy about some of the evolutions. But not everybody has evolved. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about this industry is that you still see some of that crap happening, and some of you are like, wow, you're really still doing that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Crazy.
Keeping it old school.
That's right. But,
Now, would you say though, Billy, I would, because probably caution for anyone listening. I don't want to give the wrong impression. I don't know that it's the right thing to do to tell everybody just to go out that's in air conditioning right now and then have their $1 million air conditioning business, and they're trying to figure out their margins. And the best thing to do now to fix it is to go on bolt on plumbing and electrical. I want to caution everybody that that's not what we're advising to do.
No,
Because
we're not.
there's a methodology to doing that.
That's right. That's the best practices groups went through a phase where they said that was the holy grail. Just go out and add another vertical. And now you see that made a lot of companies fail. You just can't add a vertical and everything works. You got to fix the business you have first. And that's what I coach. I mean, let's fix the business so that it can afford to add a vertical. Because 35% gross profit is terrible. I just, go look at your financials. If you're within 35, if you're not at 50 or above, it's terrible. Okay, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't come close to hitting a margin profile like that, and you're not, double-digit profitability, you're just going to be compounding your problems when you're trying to add other verticals.
Yeah,
So,
you don't have the
don't-
wherewithal or the means to do it. The money's just not there.
So is the general thinking with a vertical, if I get a vertical, I can fix the business?
That's
That's
that's maybe the interpretation from what they're
I
hearing
think
from
they're
us
just
today.
like, oh, that's the next step in growth.
This is
Like I've gotten it here, and I just need to grow. That's how they think, I think.
Yeah.
Right, this is the disclaimer to what we're talking about, right? You have to have a plan. You just don't add a vertical for no reason.
Yeah.
But if you were starting out fresh, I would definitely start with plumbing, and then I would add HC when it's time, but not until you're profitable and you can afford to do it. That's the thing. You have to be able to fund it because verticals and growth are expensive, and that's what people don't understand. And we see that on these podcasts or whatever, these $1 million plumbers, right? What do they mean by that? And it's easy to say that I have $1 million business, but that doesn't mean you're a billionaire,
Yeah.
right?
Doesn't mean it's a healthy business.
Right. So let's not get confused here. Having $1 million, a $5 million, a $10 million business doesn't make you a millionaire.
Yeah.
So don't claim to be $1 million plumber unless you're you got $1 million laying around,
Yep.
right? There's a
Well,
big difference.
Yeah.
most of these guys choose the vertical they're in because that's the trade specific knowledge that they have,
That's
right? And
exactly
so you
right.
go into business, you have the trade specific knowledge. So before you do any of this, first fix your business. But the first part, even before you fix your business, is educate yourself. You have to become a student of business. You have to understand, proper pricing strategy. You have to understand your financials. You have to understand the KPIs. You have to understand management techniques. You have to have all of these things in place. You don't just bolt on something. You've got a successful, profitable, growing business.
Mm-hmm.
You understand all of the metrics. You understand how to lead these people. You understand how to recruit the right people. You understand what the business should look like before you just, I'm going to add it and see what happens. And a lot of people take an I'm going to add it and see what happens strategy very unsuccessfully.
However, you can cross sell with the company you have now and start dabbling.
Yeah.
That's the whole
Yeah.
back to where we started. It comes back to the cross sell. If you want to start another vertical, just cross sell. Just start talking about, hey, we do HVAC. Maybe you've got a guy that does plumbing and HVAC. I've got plumbers that have gone and gotten their HVAC license, right? Because they're like, why am I cross selling and sending this cross department when I could learn it myself? And so find someone that can do both, or someone that you can afford that, just a person. You don't have to start marketing it. You don't have to spend any money in marketing. You don't have to spend any money in building another warehouse. You don't need to do any of that. You can start another vertical by cross-selling. And that is why it is, to me, the most important part, because I'm growing a substantially big business through cross-selling model with only using 35% of my budget to support it. Right? There's more value. I can go and get more plumbing calls on a daily basis for a lot less money and cross-sell those than trying to
100%. And
fight
that's the
with
name of the
everyone.
game.
Yeah,
That's why I really like garage, because as I looked at it, the cost per lead in garage. Now there's some private equity, there's some bigger players that are getting into it. Garage, roofing, then electrical, then plumbing. All that, from what I've seen, that's kind of the order of lowest cost per lead to acquire a customer.
Mm-hmm. That's the idea here. Where's the competition not at? Where is it easier? What's the easiest path? This is why we say all the time in this industry, on this show, this industry is changing so quickly. And so we need to find the path of least resistance to build a business. And if you're going all in on HVAC, you're picking the path of most resistance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you need to figure out another path. And if you want to add plumbing, go get a plumber and start cross-selling to him. Just one guy. And until he's busy all the time, don't get anyone else. Don't promote it. Don't market it. Don't do anything. Just start cross-selling. It's free. You're already in the home.
Yep. Baby steps.
And
Baby steps.
That's right. It reinforces the membership, because the membership goes, oh, by the way, in this membership, we do this as well. I can set up an appointment for you because I can see that you have this problem. Would you like for someone to have a look at it? If you were happy with my business service today, I highly recommend that you use our other vertical, right? That's how we do it. That's all I've ever done. I mean, we started plumbing and with Billy Go, and we slowly added in HVAC, and we
Yep.
still use that model. And
That's the way to do it.
and
That's absolutely. If I were to do, I would do it exactly the way you did it, 100%. Now, but going back to the sales thing, from a sales strategy in the home, this is one thing that I get asked constantly. Like, where should I send my guys for sales training? Where should I send my guys for sales training? Who's the best sales trainer? And I always like shudder when I hear that question because I'm I am not a big, there's value to be had to go learn anything, right? Anyone that has open eyes and ears can go learn and partake and gain some value and knowledge when you go attend a class or a conference or any of that. Uh, but if, I would never just blindly send any of my technicians or sales to a sales training unless that sales trainer had committed to understanding our model, how we run our calls, how the calls should flow, and they can help train specific to our model. Because if you're doing a generic sales training model, then you may be completely contradicting everything you're trying to accomplish, and you may be getting different customer experiences, etc. So I'm not a big fan of sending anybody to sales training class unless there's a specific agenda and there's an understanding of what should be going on in the home that you've already approved.
so I'd love to touch on this for a second.
So,
I'd love to touch on this.
Yeah.
So we don't send any of our guys to sales training. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. I don't even coach sales training, right? I stay a million miles away from that because the business is the problem, right? But let me tell you what we do. All we do is we role play. We role play situations here in the office every week. We role play situation. We role play with techs the whole time. One tech's a customer, one tech's the tech, and we role play, and we get everyone involved, and we never stop role playing. And that's the best sales training you can do because we are role playing to what we see and hear and feel at our business every day. Most of the people that are out there teaching sales training, they're teaching sales training that they learn in a corporate environment. They've never run one of these companies before. Have you thought about that? Most of the sales trainers,
objection handling, basic objection handling, basic, it's
and they've never run the
very
businesses. And that's the other thing. They never run the businesses. However, on the flip side, we had some gurus that have run businesses, not very well, teaching sales training so they can get the technician's information so they can build their own business with your technician, right? We've had some of that go on. So it's, I don't know. I think if you build a business, you need to build the business to where everything is touched in the business. You can't. Yeah, you need to educate yourself. If you don't know things, you need to educate yourself. You need to watch podcasts like this. You need to go on YouTube, whatever you can to maybe help you learn something. But
here's what I've discovered in all of my sales training and all of that, because I've attended a lot of the classes and conferences, and a lot of it's generic. Some of it's good stuff. What I've discovered about the sales process in the home is 100% of it comes down to how the technician, whether you got a salesperson or you're allowing the techs to sell, whatever, 100% of it comes down to how that technician interacts with the customer in the home. How it does. Do you have a really strong, well-trained technician that's trained on your specific service call protocol? Is every time they show up to the house, are they doing the same things? Are they saying the same things? Are they following the same process? Do they have courage of their convictions and making the right recommendations? If they're doing that, whether you got a salesperson following or selling themselves, you're going to have way more success. If you have a weak protocol, if they're not doing the same thing every time, if they don't have the role play, if they don't have all of these things that we're talking about, you're not going to have success. Whether you sent somebody to whether you have a $2 million salesperson following behind them or you send them to class, you're not going to have success. It all comes down to the protocol and how strongly you adhere to that protocol.
And the protocol, is as simple as how you approach the house, how what you say first, what you say second, what you say last,
5-star
and
greeting to
and
the
then what you
customer.
don't,
Yep.
and then what you don't say. Because here's the way I look at it: they called you out to buy something, and if you get nothing, sorry, you're the one that screwed it up.
You said something that resulted in that.
Period.
Yeah.
It's not price. It was you. Sorry, it was you. 100%. And so that's what you need to teach, overcoming that, not BSing customers. Number one.
Yeah.
Sell when it's time to sell. Ask for the close when it's that time to ask for the close. But if not, save the customer. You'll get it eventually. Reputation means everything in today's world.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to sign off here. I hope everybody enjoyed this. If you have any questions, reach out. Thank y'all for watching.
Good to see you. See you guys.